Do you love homemade bread and homemade butter, but always wish you could use it to get completely and utterly ripped? Well, this is definitely the video for you. In here I show you how to make your own bread and your own compound butter, both infused with local cannabis. If that's something that you're interested in, definitely stick around and watch this. Hey everybody, this is Chef Stuart coming at you from SNash420. And as promised, here is an episode that I'm going to use the royal leaf pre-roll that I got. The black walnut, or black maple, excuse me, to make an edible. So I have decarbed about a gram of this black maple cannabis here, and I'm going to go ahead and make a sourdough bread with this. So in this bowl here I have some bread flour and some salt. I like to work in grams, so it's 500 grams of bread flour to 14 grams of salt. In this bowl here I have my sourdough levain, which is just, sourdough starter that's been fed, and I have some water, so 300 grams of water and 275 grams of sourdough levain. And then here I have a little extra yeast and some water for an extra boost to get things going. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the decarbed flour and I'm going to stir it right into our bread flour. And then I'm going to grab myself a little whisk, and I'm going to whisk together our starter and our water. And when it's nice, has a nice smooth consistency, we're going to go ahead and add our yeast mixture. And this will really get things popping. Now this is going to be more for flavor. It's going to have a little bit of potency. So if you want to really dial up the potency, you can use, I have here a homemade tincture, or you can use some CBD oil if you wanted to kind of take the edge off and make it more of a medical type of a bread. Or you could go super heavy and add a bunch of extra cannabis or whatever. So I have here a little bit of just CBD and THC tincture that I pre-measured that I'm just going to add right into the liquid ingredients here. And that will just give us a little extra potency, make sure this bread is nice and fire. And then we're going to go ahead and add our liquid ingredients to our dry ingredients. And we're going to mix in and moisten all of our flour. Get this all mixed up and ready to go. Okay. And once we get to the point where we can't really do anything more with the spatula, we're going to go ahead and give it a little bit of a rest to allow the flour to absorb all the good stuff. I'm just going to cover this with a plate for now. Kind of just let it rest here for a few minutes, and then we'll come back to it, and we'll knead it, and we'll give it its proofing rest. So we'll be right back. You don't want to miss this. All right, guys, and we are back. So we've given this bread about 15 minutes to fermentalize or autolyse with the yeast and everything fermenting it. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to knead it and really get some gluten action going here. Let me move this out of the way. All right, so we're just going to knead it in the ball here until it gets nice and tight. So if you can see, this dough is really coming together. It's a little sticky, but it's, for the most part, the gluten web is forming nicely. And what I'm going to do is, it's not quite ready to pass a window pane test just yet. But rather than overworking the dough, I'm going to allow time to do it for me. So I have here a little squeeze bottle with some oil in it, and I'm just going to oil a little ball here. And I'm just going to go ahead and place this dough, get some tension on it, place this dough in the bowl, and allow it to do its thing for between 2 and 6 hours. And then we'll come back and we will shape it and probably give it an overnight proof and then bake it off. So stay tuned, you don't want to miss this. Hey everybody, and it's been about 30 minutes since we put this dough in the bowl here, and I'm just going to give it the first set of stretch and folds. So basically you're going to lift a corner of the dough up as far as it'll go before it rips, and then fold it over, and do that on each corner. The dough is definitely gaining some elasticity. It's really looking quite beautiful. All right, we're going to go ahead and put it down for another 30 minutes, and we'll come back with our second set of stretch and folds shortly. Hey guys, so this has been about another 30 minutes since our first set of stretch and folds. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to stretch out each corner of the dough. Just like we did the last time. Trying to do it without ripping it. So yeah, we're really starting to get some really good rigidity with this. It's holding its shape really nicely now. Probably do one more set of stretch and folds before we're done, and then we'll give it another hour to proof before we shape it. All right, everybody, well, we are back with our third and final set of stretch and folds. So it's now all told been about an hour and a half into the baking process, or the initial proofing process, giving it 30 minutes in between each stretch and fold so it really has a chance to relax and strengthen. Oh yeah. So as you can see now, we can really get this into a nice tight ball, and it's really holding its shape really nicely now. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to give it a full hour-long proofing process now, undisturbed, and then we will come back for final shaping. Stay tuned, you don't want to miss this. Hey everybody, welcome back. So we have proofed our dough for an hour now, and it has definitely well over doubled in size. And it is really nice and elastic and fluffy, and smells amazing. So we're going to go ahead and dust our board just a little bit with some flour. And we're going to do a final shaping on this. So we're going to pull the corners up together, all four corners. Then we're going to pull the new corners that those corners made up together, kind of forming a little pouch. And bring all that together, get it nice and tight. We're going to flip it over, and we have ourselves a nice little ball. And we're going to use the tension against the table to kind of create a nice, tight ball. And there we go. That's going to be our final shape. And yeah, it's going to be a nice little boule or ball of dough. And I don't use bannetons. I feel like it's a waste. So I have here just a bowl that's lined with a tea towel. And I'm using a little bit of rice flour. This happens to be mochi flour. It's the only rice flour that I had at the moment. Rice flour has a much higher temperature that it can stand than bread flour does, so it won't burn in the oven as badly. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to do seam side up. So this nice beautiful side becomes our bottom. Put the seam up, and then we're just going to go ahead and cover this loosely with some plastic. Here we go. So again, covered loosely with some plastic, and we're going to put this in the refrigerator overnight, and then in the morning we will bake this beautiful loaf. So come on back then, it's going to be delicious. And to go along with the bread, I figured we could make some infused compound butter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the other sample that I got from this weekend's excursion. This is the Rolling Green Cannabis Purple Sunset. So I've decarbed about a gram of that. And then I have a lemon here. And I'm just going to zest this lemon. And the zest is just the outside of the lemon where all the essential oils are. So it's going to give you the kind of citrusy smell of lemon without actually giving you like lemon juice sourness. And also it's an oil base, not a water base. So it's going to be a lot easier for the butter to absorb it than it will be for it to absorb something like lemon juice. All right, we're done with this guy for now. So next, I'm going to add the decarb cannabis flowers. And again, that's the Purple Sunset from Rolling Green Cannabis. Now, because I want this to be an aromatic butter, I'm going to add a couple of things to it. The first thing I'm going to add to it is some terpenes. So this is clementine terpenes. It's going to accentuate the citrusiness. The cannabis is kind of going to act as a culinary herb in this, kind of giving it a lemon thyme-y kind of a feel. And I'm just literally adding 1 drop of clementine terpenes. You don't want it to be like super crazy citrusy. You just want it to enhance the lemon flavor. I'm also going to add a few drops of CBD oil because I don't want anybody to get too stoned. About 10 drops. And so here I have 2 little containers of a homemade cultured butter. I do not have a video right now of how I made this, but I'm sure I'll be able to do that in the future. Once I run out of butter, I'll make a video of it next batch. So we've got our butter, we've got our herbs, our herb. We've got our terpenes and our lemon zest. I'm going to go ahead and add some cracked black pepper. I'm going to add a touch of salt. And then one last thing I'm going to add is a few dashes of a homemade THC tincture, just to make sure that we're nice and balanced. So 5-6 dashes of CBD, 5-6 dashes of THC. And then we're just going to kind of beat that together until it forms a nice, smooth, incorporated butter. Now I can do this because my butter is at room temperature. If your butter was cold, you'd probably want to use a food processor for this. And you'll know it's done because the liquid will stop fighting back and it will start to really be able to look nice and incorporated. Now I'm just going to go ahead and put this back into the little containers that we took it out of. Delicious. You get the obvious butteriness of the butter. The lemon zest, the terpenes come through just in the background. The cannabis flavor comes through kind of like a thyme or a parsley a little bit. Because it's decarb, you're not going to get like a terpene profile through that anymore. Get a little salt, get a little pepper. Very nice. So that is our beautiful cannabis compound butter. So the butter itself has not been infused with cannabis. It hasn't been melted. It hasn't been infused that way. Instead, we used dry cannabis flowers and a little bit of cannabis tincture in a beaten butter, also known as compound butter. It's a different process. It keeps the butter intact. It keeps the flavor traditional. And also, if you're using cultured butter like I am, you're not heating it and destroying the beautiful enzyme profile that you've created doing the culture. So now we've got a beautiful butter to eat with our cannabis bread when that's ready tomorrow. And we'll come back and give you the final tasting notes. Hey everybody, and welcome back. So it is now the next day and our sourdough bread is ready to be baked off. So I have preheated my oven to 500 degrees, and in my oven I do have a cast iron skillet. I don't typically use a Dutch oven, and you technically don't even need a cast iron skillet either. You can just do it on a standard cookie pan, but I think the cast iron pan does add a nice crispier crust, at least to the bottom. And then as far as the oven spring goes, I use an ice cube for steam. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and start getting everything prepped. So I'm going to grab my dough out of my fridge, I'm going to grab some ice, and I'm going to pull the hot cast iron pan out of the oven, and we'll score the dough and get it baking. As you can see, the dough had a really nice rise overnight in the fridge. I'm going to hit it with just a little bit more rice flour so it does not stick to the bottom of the pan. That should be good. And as far as ice goes, I use these big cocktail rocks. I find that they melt a little slower and it creates more even steam production. All right, let's grab out our cast iron pan here. And this is just a standard cast iron skillet. We're going to go ahead and just flip our little homemade banneton bowl right into the skillet. And then we're going to score the dough. So I'm going to do single score, and 1, 2, 3 on one side, and 1, 2, 3 on the other side, and hopefully when this bakes up it'll kind of look like a pot leaf. We'll see what happens. All right, now we're going to bake this for 20 minutes or 25 minutes initially with the steam. Now, if you were using a Dutch oven, you would bake it for the first 20 to 25 minutes and then remove the lid. But since we are not using a Dutch oven, since we're using a cast iron pan with some ice as a steam creator, we're just going to let it ride out. So it's going to be the first 25 minutes, and then after that, we can use the oven light, or we can crack the door just slightly to see what it looks like. If it's starting to get nice and brown, we can turn the oven down a few degrees and let it go for an additional 20 to 25 minutes to get that really deep, beautiful crust. Now, the internal temperature of the dough will never get above, or should never get above, 210 degrees. Because that's where water evaporates. If it gets much hotter than that, it'll dry out and become very, very difficult to eat. So, assuming that all that takes place, your dough should have a pretty healthy dose of THC content still. All right, well, we'll come back in about 50 minutes and we'll see what the bread looks like. See you then. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. It has been about 45 to 50 minutes, and I'm going to pull our bread out of the oven and see how we did. Now the most important part of this, nice and hollow, and nice crispy crust. Now I'm going to go ahead and take our little brush here, and I'm just going to dust off the excess flour, excess rice flour, I should say. Now, we didn't quite get a full pot leaf, but we did get a nice looking little design here. you know? And as I said before, the great part of this is you can hear it. And that crust is really crispy. And you can hear the crackle just a little bit. Now that's good sourdough. Hey everybody, welcome back. So we have had this cooling for about an hour now since we took it out of the oven. And oh man, I wish you guys could smell this. This is deep and rich and has an amazing smell to it. You can hear just how crispy that crust is. And look at that beautiful crumb. Oh man, I'm gonna have to bring it over a little closer. Now this is on purpose. I don't like gigantic air pockets. I prefer a nice stable crumb, therefore you can make a sandwich with it and it won't, like your fillings won't fall out. So that's a beautiful crumb in my opinion. It's just open enough, but it's not crazy open. And you can see the specks of flour in there. Oh, smells amazing. All right. I gotta try a piece of this. I think I'm gonna try an end piece. Leave the centers for later. That's nice. See that nice crispy edge right there? That's my favorite part. Now this would not be complete without trying some of our lemon butter with it. Now this is the butter from earlier in the video that we made with the cannabis from Rolling Green, and the bread was made with the cannabis from Royal Leaf. So shout out to both of these guys. Thank you very much for letting me use your products and to make some edibles with it. Ah, smells amazing. All right, guys, cheers. All right. So first, the lemon comes through really nicely. You get the terpene profile, just a tiniest little hint of flour. The bread comes through as an undertone. It's nice, rich, deep crustiness, followed by a little bit of sourness from the sourdough starter. Not a ton because you really like give it days to sour up. Tiniest little bit of like toasted cannabis note from the bread, but nothing bitter, nothing chlorophyll-y. That's awesome. That's all I got. Go make yourself some bread, man, and some butter. Cheers.